Am I the a-hole for not inviting my dad to my wedding, then having him removed by police when he showed up anyway? Throwaway account for obvious reasons. I, 23F, recently married my amazing partner, John, 24M, and while it was one of the most meaningful days of my life, it also ended up being one of the most painful. Now I'm stuck questioning whether I handled things the right way or if, in my effort to protect my peace, I went too far. Let me give you some background. I grew up in a very religious, conservative Christian household. Church on Sundays wasn't optional. Prayer before every meal and before bed, Christian school from kindergarten all the way until sophomore year. Everything in our home revolved around God, the Bible, and making sure we looked like the ideal Christian family from the outside. My father is, to put it lightly, a zealot. He's not just devoted, he's obsessive. And from as early as I can remember, he drilled into my head that the man I married had to be a God-fearing Christian. No exceptions. He used to say things like, if he's not walking with the Lord, he'll drag you straight into hell with him. I wish I was exaggerating, but I'm not. As a little girl, I didn't question any of it. I thought my dad was just protecting me. I thought he was wise. I even used to imagine my future husband as someone who led prayer at dinner and held my hand in church. But that fantasy unraveled the moment I met John. When I was 15, we had to transfer out of the private Christian school. Tuition was too expensive, and public school was the only realistic option. I was terrified. I'd never been around secular kids before, but that's where I met John. He was 16 at the time. Quarterback, smart, kind, the sort of guy who remembered your birthday and opened doors without making a show of it. And he had the gentlest smile I've ever seen. I crushed on him for almost a year. Then one day, out of nowhere, he asked me out. It felt like something out of a movie. We became inseparable. I was cheer captain, he was QB. We were that high school couple everyone assumed would break up after graduation, but we didn't. From the beginning, I was upfront with my family, especially my dad, that John wasn't religious. He didn't grow up going to church. He didn't pray. But he wasn't hostile toward religion either. He just wasn't raised in it. My dad acted like he was fine with it at first, but his true colors came out fast. Every time John came over, my dad would find ways to interrogate him.
Not talk to him.
Not get to know him. Interrogate. He'd ask if John believed in Jesus, if he was prepared for eternal damnation, if he had any idea what hell was really like. One time, he showed John a video of a sermon called 23 Minutes in Hell, then turned to him and said, "This is your future." Mind you, John was only 17. And through all of this, John never once raised his voice or got snarky. He kept his cool. He memorized Bible verses to try and earn my dad's approval. He came to church with me even though he didn't believe. He waited until marriage to sleep with me, even though it was my idea, not his. He did everything he could to show respect. And still, my dad treated him like a threat to my soul. Fast forward to a few years ago, John proposed. I was over the moon.
I called my parents that night.
My mom was quiet but supportive. My dad? Not so much. He told me flat out that he didn't support the engagement, would not give us his blessing, would not contribute a cent to the wedding, and most painfully, would not walk me down the aisle. That hit hard. It wasn't about the money. I make enough to have funded the wedding 3 times over. But every little girl dreams of that moment, you know? Being walked down the aisle by her father. I guess some part of me thought he'd eventually come around. He didn't. In the months that followed, my dad began sending us long, scathing texts and emails. He told me I was choosing damnation, that I was leading John astray. He quoted scripture at us. He compared John to a serpent, even. It got so bad that I finally blocked his number. I told John to do the same. It wasn't healthy anymore. 1 week before the wedding, I made the hardest decision of my life. I told my mom she was welcome to attend, but my dad was not. If he couldn't support me, love me unconditionally, or, at the very least, stay respectful, then he had no place at my wedding. I made it clear that if he showed up, I wouldn't hesitate to have him removed.
Well,
he showed up. He came storming into the venue halfway through the pre-ceremony photos, uninvited, unannounced, and furious. At first, he tried to talk his way in with the front staff, telling them he was the father of the bride and demanding to see me. When they wouldn't let him through, he started shouting. Somehow, he managed to sneak past someone and made it all the way to where John and I were taking a few candid shots. He got in John's face, screamed that he was a demon, a false prophet, and unworthy of me. He actually shoved John at one point, and that was when security called the cops. They came quickly. He was escorted out, still shouting, and we were left in total shock.
Some guests saw.
Our photographer had to delete multiple shots because you could hear him screaming in the background of the video. The ceremony still happened. We still said our vows. But the atmosphere was different after that.
Tense. Shaky.
It felt like my childhood trauma had shown up and tried to sit in the front row. After the wedding, I didn't speak to my dad. I didn't even want to. But my mom called me a few days later, crying. She told me my dad was a wreck. That he hadn't stopped crying since the wedding. That he couldn't believe he missed seeing his baby girl walk down the aisle. That he wished he hadn't gone, but also that he couldn't stay away. She also said it's my fault. That I pushed him too far. That I should have dealt with it privately and not humiliated him. That John should have been more understanding. That I chose a man over my family. And even though I know deep down that I made the right decision for my peace, for my future, part of me still feels guilty. I'm not really religious anymore. I still go to church on occasion, mostly to keep peace with extended family, but my faith faded a long time ago. And I think that's part of what makes this so hard. Because my dad still sees me as his little Christian daughter, and in his mind, I've not only rejected his faith, I've rejected him. But does love mean letting someone disrespect your boundaries, your partner, your life choices, over and over? So, am I the a-hole for not inviting my dad to my wedding and having him removed when he showed up anyway?